All right, joining me now to share some helpful tips on how to show your Broncos pride while staying safe is AdventHealth Ed Medical Director Dr. Christopher Post. Thanks for being here. We have our first game, preseason game, coming up this coming week, and fans are going to get back out there. But I think sometimes people forget that these games now happen, the preseason happens in the summer. So it's hot. What do fans need to think about before they go out and tailgate? There are a couple things dealing with the heat.
Yeah, so the first couple of weeks, obviously the temperature is going to be up 80s, 90s, even into the first couple month of the season there. And the big things we see is just heat-related injuries. So folks get out there and they're sitting on the asphalt for 2-3 hours in the bright sunlight, and they end up getting some heat-related injuries. So heat exhaustion, things like that. The big things we look for: dizziness, headaches, palpitations, and obviously as people get more dehydrated, more ill, they end up with kind of getting altered and confused, and that's when we really start to worry about them.
And when you talk about more dehydrated, you go out there and you're not necessarily thinking. I'm not speaking. This is painting with a broad brush. Not everybody is thinking about hydrating with water. A lot of people out there are having an adult beverage or two or six, and that dehydrates you pretty quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So alcohol is going to dehydrate you a little bit quicker, obviously, and so if you do choose to do that, we just recommend drinking some water or Gatorade or something to sort of replace that and avoid some problems.
And so with the cooking, we go out there and we have hot dogs and burgers and whatever else. Some people do really creative out there in the parking lot. What do we need to know about when you put food under that heat? How quickly do we have to cook it, watch it?
Yeah, so the obviously things like chicken and ground beef, you want to make sure you're cooking those thoroughly. But the bigger issues, if you end up with mayo or pasta salad, things like that contain mayo, you leave those out in 100-degree weather, and that can create some problems that you probably don't want midway through the Broncos game. So,
is there any kind of how long can meat stay out in the roughly? How long should it stay?
Yeah, before you cook, 20, 30 minutes at most, and then just get it on the grill. And for the other stuff, just keep it in the cooler until you're ready to eat.
And when people have these injuries, whether they're heat related or food related, they wind up in the ER. Some of them wind up in the ER. And for folks at home who are thinking, oh, that's just, whatever, it's minor. What can some of these things turn into? How dangerous can dehydration be? Yeah,
so, for average healthy folks, it's an inconvenience. You don't feel real well, but there's groups in our population, really young, really old, folks with other comorbidities that that can be quite serious and can lead to big problems as far as organ function, kidney function, things like that. So it's a big deal for everybody, but certainly for the folks with other medical problems and the older folks, much bigger issue.
And if you're out there and you're having fun, I know you're not thinking about it, but how should you think about how you're feeling in terms of what could be leading in that direction? What are the symptoms?
Yeah, like we touched on briefly, is the big signs like heat exhaustion would be kind of profuse sweating and palpitations, so feeling like your heart rate's going real fast, headaches, lightheadedness. Those are sort of those early signs. And like I said, as they progress, and you can end up with some other stuff like more confusion and not making a whole lot of sense, passing out, those sorts of things.
Oh, that's interesting. So if you're just sitting there and you're not doing anything, but your heart starts going pretty fast, that's a sign?
That's usually
that you're heading in that direction?
If you're sitting out in the sun, that's a pretty good sign.
How much water do people need to be drinking when they're out in that kind of heat?
Yeah, so every day we tell people, at least 60 ounces of water throughout the day for just sitting around and doing your normal job and doing your normal thing. You're going out and sitting in 100-degree weather, you probably want to bump that up. So, 80 ounces.
A lot of water.
It is. Well, throughout the whole day.
I try.
Not in one sitting.
Not in one sitting. I desperately try to do that, especially since I moved here to Denver because of the elevation. And but yeah, I guess you really need to bring a water bottle and think about it when you're going out there to the games.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's always a good reminder.